Welcome back, Knuckleheads. I am Lupine Fiasco, and this is Daily FaB Gameplay. For anyone who's new to the channel, welcome to the jungle. What we do here is review replays of games that I played on the Talishar client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed, that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my play. I will talk through turn cycles and give my thoughts on the line I would take now, compared to the line I took then at the time of recording. We either reinforce good play patterns or identify areas for improvement for the purpose of tightening and improving our gameplay in the future to take down paper events like the upcoming Skirmish and ProQuest season, and, most importantly, walk away with that shiny, shiny cardboard. If you'd like to check out the list I'm playing here or try it for yourself on Talishar, there is a FaB deck link in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. The best paid way to support me is through Patreon, and a Patreon link is also in the video description. A Patreon subscription will get you access to the DFG Discord and the shiny, shiny cardboard Talishar card back. At higher tiers, your name will appear in every DFG video, and you could receive bonus DFG content every week. Daily FaB gameplay will always be free 5 days a week, so those who can afford to patronize me, I truly appreciate it. I also now am on X, and if you would like to see memes, inane comments, and the occasional self-promotion, head on over to X and follow Lupine Fiasco. Now, without further ado, let's talk about our sideboard and about our game plan. Against New, the name of the game is really two-card hands. If we are comparing our new strategy to how we played against Uzuri earlier this week, the real difference is that against Uzuri, we feel comfortable blocking with two cards because Uzuri lacks the resources to pull extra cards out of our hand when we aren't expecting it, or I guess when we don't want it to happen. New says that we don't block because she does have the tools to rip cards out of our hand. New has Siren's Call. New has Mask of Recurring Nightmares. She has ways to say that our 2-card block is either a 3-card block with Siren's Call, or our intention to keep 2 cards now only has us keeping 1 card if we get one banished with Mask. And Siren's Call happens, regularly enough. It's a 3 of a New's deck, but depending on how much Transcend New is running, the Mask could happen really at any point, as long as the card that preceded it was something like a Surgical Extraction or Bonds of Attraction, Bonds of Desire. So we're trying not to block New, and in exchange, we are sending above rate damage compared to what she's doing. New is disruptive, she's annoying, she's going to mess with your turn cycles, but her attacks are on rate or below it. Surgical Extraction is a 2 for 4 that takes a card out of our hand and enables Transcend, but New turned 2 cards into 4 damage. Leave No Witnesses is great, it's a 1-card 4. Commanded Conqueror is a 2-card 6. That does not compare to Swing Big being a 2-card 8, or Bear Fangs being a 2-card 9. We get to go above rate on New. And if we aren't blocking, then we just trade damage back and forth. That is going to work out well for us if we're taking cards out of New's hand. On defense, maybe we get to send an extra Mandible Claw, or New misses the disruption and we get to send Wild Ride, Mandible Claw, Pack Hunt, something like that. And eventually we're going to look for that Blood Rush Bellow, and we're going to turn our armor into blocking disruption, and we're going to hit New for 30, and we're going to win the game based on either the attack itself or the tempo that the attack gives us. So all of this is to say we're looking to play 2-card hands. And we can talk about the sideboard here. This is an older sideboard plan. I'd heard some stirrings ahead of the Pro Tour that some Kayos are starting to cut blues. I didn't get too far into it with them. They weren't on my team. They didn't want to talk strat, and I totally respected that. And I didn't play against enough New leading up to the Pro Tour that I wanted to really put the strategy out there, especially on video. The Kayo community, we look out for each other. I didn't want to spoil anyone's strategy ahead of the PT. So at this point, I'm comfortable saying that I believe the ideal blue count is somewhere between 17 and 19. For this list that runs 21 blues, I want to cut blue Smash Instinct, and I want to put in Send Packing. I don't like Send Packing in the list generally because of how well Assassin blocks. Nu has a deck full of 3 blocks, she plays defense reactions. It's unlikely that Send Packing is actually going to threaten the arsenal or make Nu do anything she doesn't already want to do, like block. And if Send Packing isn't doing the thing, it's a 3-cost 6, which is really bad compared to our 2-cost 6s. But I want Send Packing in the deck because I don't want to play Smash Instinct. Smash Instinct is the best blue in our deck that Nu can play. And if we are taking Smash Instinct out, then we are running 6 sets of 3 blues. And 4 of those sets of blues are totally unusable by Nu. If Nu Sirens calls us and we have an Agile or a Mighty Windup in hand, we get to discard it as a response so that Nu can't force us to block with it, but more importantly, Nu doesn't draw a card from the Sirens Call. Or if Nu banishes our Run Roughshod or our Wrecker Romp, they are almost completely unusable. Wrecker Romp forces Nu to discard a card. Run Roughshod is actually unplayable unless Nu has discarded a card. Run Roughshod, the best blue in our deck, but if you are Nu, it is terrible. So that leaves us with Riled Up and Assault and Battery as blues that Nu can play. Eventually you are going to have to accept that you are running blues that Nu can play unless you go real hard into Savage Swing or Barraging Bighorn, which I just don't want to do. I feel like Kayo plays his blues a non-zero number of times to actually try and get value out of them, that I don't want to run the bad blues just to mess with one matchup where I feel like we have a pretty decent chance of winning without going to those extra lengths. There is that possibility that Nu is going to look to spike you with a bunch of blues and close the game out that way. The telltale sign of this is Traverse the Universe instead of Mask of Recurring Nightmare, so that Nu has that on-demand chi. It's something to pay attention to. For the most part, we aren't playing against Traverse Nu any differently than we play against Mask of Recurring Nightmare Nu. Try not to block with your blues when you can get away with it. Look to pitch them instead. If you have to play a blue, so be it. Just know that putting a blue into your graveyard does leave you open to Bonds of Attraction, Bond of Desire, or Undercurrent Desires. Eventually banishing that blue, it may force you to have to block a little more or let Nu find damage out of nowhere. But for the most part, we are not blocking Nu at all. We're converting 2-card hands. We're trying to go above rate and find that blood rush that lets us kill her. We did lose the die roll, and we are forced to go first. It's a little tragic, especially with this hand. We wouldn't mind doing some blocking here, especially if we were blocking Beckoning Mistblade or Scale Peeler, then we know that these blues aren't getting banished. So I would really enjoy blocking with this hand. Worth noting that if these Smash Instincts were Send Packings, this hand looks a little better. We get to play Bare Fangs, pitch Wrecker Romp, and regardless of what we discard, we get to Arsenal and Send Packing. Now, the fact that they are not Send Packings, unfortunate as it may be, doesn't change the line I want to take here. I do want to play the Bare Fangs, pitching Wrecker Romp. Ideally, we draw something that is better in the arsenal than a Smash Instinct, and we discard a Smash Instinct. But worst case, we are making a Might. And Smash Instinct, not a totally unplayable blue. Probably the second best blue for me to have in my arsenal outside of Run Roughshod. We draw into the yellow Bare Fangs, which is going to be great in the arsenal. Really happy to have it there. And we make a Might. So, not the best start to this game. Going first against Assassin is never the best way to start a game, but being able to arsenal Bare Fangs is going to turn it around quite a bit. Scale Peeler for one, we're not going to block this. Notably, we are less happy to see Scale Peeler than Spider's Bite. Scale Peeler is going to make our big armor blocks a lot smaller. So if we do have that Blood Rush in Arsenal and we're looking to keep that 5-card hand, then throwing a Flesh Bag in front of a Scale Peeler actually looks a lot better. We get Siren's Called. We have 2 blues that we can't just discard. It's tragic. Scale Peeler, or Siren's Call, really great card. New even gets to draw a new card to replace it. Looking at a Persuasive Prognosis here. If New gets the Prognosis to hit and we flip a blue off the top of our deck, then we have a play. We pitch our 2 reds. We play Bear Fangs from Arsenal. If New takes a red from us, we just attack with the other red. Now, that being said, our 4 cards between hand and Arsenal are pretty good. We get to play a Pulping, pitch a Riled Up. If we could turn a Command and Conquer into a blue, we get to Mandible Claw Bear Fangs. But even if we keep Command and Conquer or draw a yellow to replace it with, we get to Bear Fangs from Arsenal. So I'm not enthusiastic about Prognosis hitting. I'm going to put Leathers in front of the Prognosis, make New have a attack reaction. It's very likely that she does, but we're at least forcing her to have it. What she gets to do instead is play Passover, which is too bad for us because she even gets to banish a blue from our arsenal. Worth noting that she is on Traverse and not Mask of Recurring Nightmares. So we get to, well, we don't get to keep a card from our hand because the Prognosis is going to hit, but between Traverse and Flick Knives, we know that New is trying to combo kill us eventually. Beckoning Mistblade threatens to give our blues go again. Flick Knives means that Mistblade is going to connect at some point. Traverse finds the chi that New needs to use her hero power. So we are kind of on the clock. We know what New's plan is, and we're off to a really inauspicious start here. The Prognosis hits a yellow, so great, we get to keep a 4-card hand. We are going to open with a Pulping, pitching Riled Up, and see what the rest of our turn looks like. Bad luck, draw discarding Blood Rush Bellow. New gets to give us 2 cards, take away our go again, and we just eat an intellect penalty. Really bad way to start this game. We are certainly not in a good position. We shouldn't block this Mistblade. This is a mistake. I don't like what I'm doing here. There is a reason to block a Mistblade at any point in the game. In this situation, New is a floating resource and a card in hand in Arsenal. Either one of those could be levels of Enlightenment, and if it is levels, that means that New gets to give the levels +1 and go again if the Mistblade connects, and with only 1 blue in pitch, now the levels can choose to draw a card and get the go again from Mistblade. So there is a reason to block a Mistblade at some point if you have extraneous cards. Maybe New has a small hand and you think that levels is her only way out of having a very bad turn, but this was not the turn to block Mistblade. We just sit on Leathers. Again, another just banger Siren's Call for New. Obviously, the first Siren's Call was used to block, but New getting to play 2 more immediately after that, she's off to a really strong start. Now, she does brick on the draw. Apparently, whatever she drew did not work with whatever's in Arsenal. So not the worst thing in the world, but had we been able to keep 4 cards there and get to E-Strike, Go Again, Command and Conquer, that would have been a lot better than what we get to do instead, which is E-Strike, Go Again, Bear Fangs. Still pushing probably 13 damage and making a Might. So it's going to be a fine turn cycle, but we would have loved to have thrown Command and Conquer at New here. Ideally trying to keep her off of big hands. New can play 2-card hands pretty well, but her 4-card hands are where we really need to worry about big disruption. Bearfangs cracks in for 4. We don't have an arsenal. We draw into a hand of 3 reds and a yellow. Of course, we've already seen all of Nu's Siren's Calls, so now is when we would love for her to be playing them. Looking at E-Strike for 7. This is a pretty interesting decision. We could play a red Wild Ride by pitching a yellow Wild Ride and hope to turn one of our reds into a yellow or a blue to play out the rest of the turn cycle. Alternatively, we could block the E-Strike with Bonebreaker and Swing Big, make a Might, then play Command and Conquer for 8 and Arsenal a Wild Ride. We know that Nu's Arsenal is Fang Strike and has been Fang Strike for a while, so Command and Conquer definitely has value if it hits, but we also aren't taking, let's say, a real card away from Nu. What I might want to do instead, if I don't want to take the chance on turning a red into a yellow or a blue, is actually block with Bonebreaker and CNC. Block 5, make my Might, send Swing Big for 10, and Arsenal the Wild Ride, and I think that's actually what I would prefer to do. Denying Nu the Arsenal Fang Strike is definitely good, but for one thing, we know that it's a Fang Strike. We can always play around it being Fang Strike. I would rather have Nu's Arsenal be something that I do know than something that I don't. The other great thing about Nu having a Fang Strike or a Slither in Arsenal, if you run into this situation in your game, is that Nu cannot block with 3 cards from hand and keep a Codex and play the Codex because she cannot empty her arsenal. She also can't keep a Codex and a blue, pitch that blue to attack with Dagger, and then Fang Strike or Slither it, because Fang Strike and Slither only work on attack action cards. They don't work on weapons. So we take the Swing Big Bonebreaker line, we're going to CNC for 8 and Arsenal Wild Ride. Regardless of what we do, I think Arsenaling Wild Ride is great, and we don't risk turning a red into a red and then having a subpar 2-card 3. But I don't like blocking. I don't like throwing the CNC. I would rather have thrown the Swing Big, get 2 more damage, and ensure that Nu still has this Fang Strike. Now, you see me checking the graveyard, wondering what happened to the Arsenal card. I had forgotten that Nu had a Fang Strike. But had I remembered, I would have liked to have thought that I would have taken an alternate line and said that we just deal extra damage and let Nu keep the Fang Strike. Staring down a Persuasive Prognosis, we have a pretty good hand if we want to 5-card Blood Rush. So this may be a turn where I want to cash in my Flesh Bag. If we block with Flesh Bag and Savage Sash, we cover 4, and Nu loses one of the 2 cards in her hand. Ideally, we hit whatever her attack reaction is, and that her turn just ends. Worst case for us would be blocking 4, Nu getting to keep a Justinek, and getting to play Justinek. But what is more likely to happen, we've seen some Hisses and Venomous Bites, Nu has her Tunic up, but the Tunic only pays for Hiss or Venomous Bite, and with Venomous Bite in particular, because Nu doesn't have a blue card in pitch, then she doesn't get the Fang Strike from Venomous Bite, and can only get Prognosis up to 4, which is how much we are blocking. This is the turn where I do want to cash in Flesh Bag and Sash and look to 5-card Blood Rush with a Wild Ride in my arsenal. I don't know why I'm not blocking. I guess I'm just hoping that Nu is going to flip a blue or a red and not a yellow. But I really want 5 cards here. We even seen Nu play the Venomous Bite. We would have been able to cover this with armor. I guess where I'm confused is like, if not now, then when, right? This is the 5-card Blood Rush hand. What am I waiting for to cash in my armor? This is when we cash in the armor. Just a really weird play. I'm not 100% sure where my head's at in this game. Staring down, kind of a weird draw. I mean, we can play this hand. It just is weird. So we've got a line where we Mandible Claw for 5 go again, weakest link, and hold on to our Wild Ride. We have a line where we play our Wild Ride, hope to turn a yellow into a blue. Even if we turn a red into a blue, we can still play the Agile windup. The worst case is that we turn a yellow into a red, and our only line is to Mandible Claw. Even in that case, the Wild Ride attacks for 8 and the Claw attacks for 5, so we are getting in for 13. Claw weakest link is 11, and honestly, New doesn't have that many non-blocks. She plays a number of Transcend cards. New is on Traverse, so she's definitely looking to transcend. We've only seen one at this point, so it's possible that New is holding on to Rising Sun, Setting Moon, Homage to Ancestors, some other instant. This is just a weird hand. It isn't a turn where I want to Sash either, especially considering that I haven't blocked with Sash. That's just lost value. The best line to take, considering that I want to push damage, would be to open with Wild Ride and kind of just hope that our hand stays exactly the way it is. If we are taking the Mandible Claw weakest link line, this is a 2 damage Blood Rush, which is honestly just pathetic. If we are getting 2 damage for a Blood Rush, that's just terrible. Following up with Wild Ride is a wild line, because if we turn this weakest link into a blue, let's say worst case, we turn weakest link into a Wrecker Romp. Like, we don't even want to arsenal the Wrecker Romp, or if we turn it into even a Mighty Windup or an Agile Windup, maybe we'll arsenal that, but we aren't happy about it. We get lucky, but there was a much better way to sequence this turn. There was a much better way to play this turn. I think this was just really a massive misplay on my part. Anytime you're only getting 2 value for a Blood Rush, something has gone horribly wrong. This would be situation number 2, where let's Flesh Bag Sash, right? Flick Knives can't hit us. New would not have a reaction. The only way we get punished is if New has exactly grain that tips the scale in hand. I don't know if she is playing it. Seems a little unlikely, but if we weren't going to cash in our armor last turn, now is the turn to do it. Let's think about that wind-up line. I don't like it. I'm intending to leave an out for opening with weakest link. I just don't think we needed to. I think we can play the Blood Rush, pitch the Wrecker Romp, and then we either have a blue that's going to pay for the weakest link at the end of the chain, or we have a pulping that kind of gets things started. Drawing into Bare Fang's weakest link, this is a turn where I would be fine breaking Sash. Let's break Sash, open with Bare Fangs. Worst case is that we draw another red and we either follow Bare Fangs with weakest link or play whatever the red we drew, maybe Tapacon or Wild Ride, something like that. We play that and we get some extra damage. Best case is we turn weakest link into a blue or even a yellow and we get to Mandible Claw weakest link. And we're getting 4 damage off of our Blood Rush Bella. Let's Bare Fangs. We open with Bare Fangs. It has to be Bare Fangs. Well, it has to be Sash Bare Fangs, but there's gotta be, we want to get damage out of our Blood Rush. Weakest link is Disruption, but it is not relevant against New. It can be, but it isn't always. And here we followed up with weakest link. I'm baited by New having fully blocked the 6 or the 7. I'm thinking like, yeah, this is where we get her. This was a 0 damage Blood Rush. That Blood Rush got between 2 Blood Rushes. We've discarded a 3rd Blood Rush. All 3 Blood Rushes are out of our deck. And between 3 Blood Rushes, we got 2 points of value. That's pathetic. That's terrible. That's the worst thing that could have possibly happened in this game. Let's imagine that we got 4 more points out of those 2 blood rushes and New's at 22. Suddenly, things are looking a lot better. We block this surgical for 6. We get to Bare Fangs for 9. That's almost half of New's remaining life total. That feels way better than what we're doing here, which is all 3 of our power cards are gone. We have a 6-point life lead, and New has more armor than we do. We're in a terrible spot in this game. That being said, we do want to just block for 6 and send Bare Fangs for 9, make another Might. This isn't really a hand that we can easily convert to offense. And we will just fall back on playing our very good 2-card hands. Get the Bare Fangs for 9. Make another Might. This is not almost half of New's remaining life total, but 9 is still a very good amount of damage. We feel good about that. The hand that we draw into, again, kind of another clunker. We're happy to let this Infect go through, though we can certainly take a look at New's graveyard and see what we think the follow-up might be. If she transcends here, she can't really do anything with it. The Infect doesn't have go again. She could pitch into Undertow Stiletto to make a Slither. Why would she do that? If this was a yellow or a blue in her hand, she could have daggered before infecting. More likely, it would be Justinic, but we see 3 Justinics in New's graveyard. So I'm kind of thinking that this just isn't really anything. It's either Infect for 1+2 or Transcend, pitching into New and just trying to snipe a blue off the top of her deck. We take this damage. She gets a Path Well Traveled, which is her best out, and at this point she gets to pitch into New. We take 3 from the Infect and Blood Rot, and then we're going to take another 5 from this Smash Instinct. Puts us down to 26, but we still get to play out a 5-card hand, and we are still up on life against New for her being this combo-centric deck where she is trying to combo kill us with our own blues. The fact that we now have none in our banish is pretty good. The fact that we were so red heavy is not good. We would have loved to have found a blue here or even a yellow. We are now just going to we can think if we want to pitch into Bare Fangs or pitch into Claw. We have yet to see a Codex from New, so having a card in our arsenal is pretty good. That said, we only see 1 Leave No Witnesses in New's graveyard and no Command and Conquers. Our armor is almost non-existent, so blocking a CNC is pretty grim for us. I think that just sending the Bare Fangs is fine. We do hit, so we are threatening 8 here. We do have a life lead on New. We are going to potentially push that life lead. Getting 5 more on New gives us a 12-point lead. Could be more if we had correctly sent brute attacks on our Blood Rush turns. But, we're looking fine. Scale Peeler here, very likely the follow-up is going to be Codex. Again, our armor is non-existent. We're not going to block the Scale Peeler. We will just take the damage. Oh, making a Tunic play into Surgical Extraction instead. I would like to block for 5. We can see why New went for the Scale Peeler, so that we can't just block with a 6 and our Bone Breaker, which would be great. But I do want to block with CNC and Mighty Windup. If New takes a card from us, it really isn't the worst thing in the world. She would take a Mighty Windup, put a blue into our banish, potentially get a blue off the top of our deck. We would get to send Pack Hunt for 7 and then Arsenal a CNC. And having a 3-card hand does seem appealing. We get an Arsenal, but considering New's plan of trying to combo kill us, we don't want to let her take blues, and we don't want to give her the chance to hit a blue off the top of our deck. She does hit a blue off the top, and she is going to pick a blue from our hand. And we get to Pack Hunt for 7, we get to Arsenal a CNC, But at this point, we are down to 19. There are 2 blues in our discard, in our banish, and New still has Traverse. So we are not necessarily in danger of being killed, but we are much more in danger of it now than we were had we just blocked 4. In a weird spot here where we would like to keep our CNC in arsenal, we could block the Leave No Witnesses with Bonebreaker and Pack Hunt. Actually, no, we're fine. The Tunic is not available. We can block this with Pack Hunt and Bonebreaker, make a Might, pitch run Roughshod, attack with Wild Ride, and look to send some damage plus disruption. If we draw discard very well, then we get to arsenal a Wild Ride after we play the... Oh, no, we don't. If we draw discard well, we get to turn this yellow into a blue. Let's see. Just barely missed the Beast Within. The Beast Within draw here would have been great. Now we do get to CNC, potentially taking the rest of the cards in New's hand. She does play a Grain that tips the scale from Arsenal and a Undercurrent Desire. So very interesting. So not taking the additional damage. She does this in Resolution. She does get 2 Smash Instincts from our graveyard. So at this point we are looking at a New that has 2 Chi, a Fang Strike, and a Slither. We are just going to follow this with Command and Conquer. I want to push a little damage, and I'm thinking that between the Chi, Mistblade, Slither, Flick Knives, we are going to have to do a lot of blocking, and I don't want to get stuck with this CNC just in my arsenal. Let's fire this off now, apply some pressure rather than just pitching into Mandible Claw. Mistblade comes in for 1. Our hand is okay. Ideally, we get to block with Beast Within and Assault and Battery, and then send Bear Fangs for 8, pitching our Agile Windup. Considering the blues that we now have in Banish, we have 4 blues, and we know that New is going to turn a Chi into New's ability. Potentially looking at Mistblade, giving a blue go again. That blue attacking, New slithering it, attacking with another blue, using her floating resource to break Undertow Stiletto to make a Slither, playing that Slither, attacking with another blue, and still having Flick Knives up, says that we are going to put a... should actually be Agile Windup in front of the Mistblade. I think I just got so excited about the ooh, I can block 6 and then pitch a Windup that I didn't think we can just block with a 2 block and keep a 3 block and that'll be good. New's ability hits another blue off the top of our deck. We're mega dead. So we're going to let this turn play out because it is neat that we got combo killed this way, but this should never have happened. For one thing, New should not have 2 Smash Instincts in our banish because they should not be in our deck in the first place. For another thing, 2 of these blues shouldn't be in our banish because we would have blocked the Surgical Extraction and not let her take 2 blues. We definitely put ourselves in a terrible position here through honestly really sloppy play. The 4 damage that we missed from our Blood Rush Bellows would have put New to 1, right? If she just has 4 less life, she isn't dead. But there were a series of bad decisions that we made throughout this game that really just put us into a position to die. A lot of mistakes snowballed and combined into a loss. And that will happen. That's why we have to tighten and optimize that play, because the little mistakes will catch up to you, and that's exactly what happened in this game. Just really bad decision making. New's strategy was face up. She had Flick Knives, she had Traverse the Universe, she had Beckoning Mistblade, all of which tells us she's going to try to kill us with our blues. And we did not play to minimize the number of blues that she was putting into our banish, and we also didn't play to maximize our damage output will get it. So I hope you learned something from this game. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, be sure to assault and batter that like button. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It's free. It helps me out a lot. I have a Patreon. I have a Twitter. I will be back with more daily FaB gameplay real soon. So until then, take care.